Okay, let's now look at question 1 of the 2010 MYE exam paper. Okay, the first question is actually a pendulum period question. Okay, where the keyword period. So how do we know what is the meaning of period? Period is actually the time taken for one complete observation. Okay, a lot of students are very confused by the word period. Okay, period is always measured by so the one way of remembering this is period is your time that you take for, like, for example, the science lesson. So it's 45 minutes. So one period lesson is actually 45 minutes. So in this case, it's actually a measurement of time. So once you see the word period, it's actually time. And in this case, because it's a pendulum question, so it's actually for one complete observation. So what is the meaning of one complete observation? So if I, for example, if I start from X, I have to swing to Z, and I need to come back to X. So this, if you notice, the start and the end point has to be the same point. So if I start at X, I swing to Z, I must come back to X. So this is the meaning of one complete observation. Okay? So in this case, it says that it takes, the question says that, now we go back to the question, it says it takes 2 seconds to swing from X to Y, only X to Y. If you notice, X to Y is actually a quarter of the whole duration, because this, if I start from X to Y is one swing, Y to Z is one swing, and if I have to go back, so Z to Y is one swing, and Y to X is one swing. So you consider only X to Y is actually only one quarter of one complete observation. So we can say that we need X to Y plus Y to Z, okay, plus Z back to Y, and Y back to X as a complete observation. Okay, so in this case, X to Y is only 2 seconds. Okay, so we fill the blanks now. So this is 2 seconds, and Y to Z is as another 2 seconds, because it's one quarter. So Z to Y is another 2 seconds from here, and Y back to X is actually another 2 seconds. So actually my answer is, actually my period is wrong. It's actually 2 times 4. So period is represented by the symbol T. So it's actually 2 seconds and 4 parts. So it's actually 8 seconds. So my answer for question 1 is actually D. Okay. So you must read the question very carefully. Where is X to Y, and what is one complete observation? Okay. So this is the method to solve question 1. Okay, what about question 2? Okay, let's look at question 2. What is the micrometer screw gauge reading shown in the diagram? Okay, if you look at this question, micrometer is always measured in mm, and micrometer can read up to 2 decimal places. This is very important. So we read first the timbre reading. So notice on top is 0 to 5, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. And notice there's something below. So if there's something below, this is actually a 0.5. Okay, 0.5. So this is actually, if I read here, this is actually a 5.5. So I circle. So 5.5 is my starting point. And remember, you can read up to 2 decimal places. So I cannot stop with 5.5. I need to find the second decimal place. So how do I find the second decimal place? So in this case, I must form a horizontal line here, and must match with this line. So if you notice, this is actually, if you notice, this line is actually 16. 16, remember 16, I cannot just add 16. 16 I have to rewrite into 0.16. Okay, so go back here, this is 5.5, this is 0.16. So how do I find the reading? Very simple, just take 5.5 plus 0.16. Okay, keep the decimal place clear, so I just add together. So 5.66 mm. Okay, so the best answer in this question 2 is actually D. Okay, is it D? Okay, please take note, just now we started with saying that micrometer is mm, so the answer, this is cm, so this is wrong, so it cannot be D. So the best answer in this case, you notice, is actually B, right? Because B is 5.66 and the unit is in mm, which is correspond to a micrometer school gauge reading. So the correct answer should be B. Okay. So let me move on to question 3. Okay, question 3 is actually a kinematics question. How do I know? Because there's a word acceleration. Okay, accelerates from a certain speed to a certain speed, and they ask you for the acceleration. So first, try to recall the formula to find acceleration. So A is my acceleration. A is actually equal to my v minus u, okay, whole thing over the time taken for the change in the speed. So let's try to identify what is the v, u, and t in this question. So how do you identify it? From, accelerate from 6 meters per second. From is actually my initial or starting speed. So this is my u. 2. You can see the word 2. So this is actually my v. And this is the time taken for the change. So this is actually my t. So if I substitute into the formula, v is actually 10 minus 6. Okay, put a bracket here. Is over 5 seconds. So it's actually 4 over 5. 4 over 5, you change to decimal, it's actually equal to 0.8 meter per second squared. Okay, so this is the answer for question 3. Okay, 0.8 meter per second squared, which is option B. Okay, so just apply this formula. Okay, what about question 4? Question 4 is another kinematics question because it's given as, please take note, this is a speed against time. Some students get very confused when it's become a distance against time. Okay, so in this case, it asks for the distance traveled in first 10 seconds. So first 10 seconds is actually 0 all the way to 10. So you must read the question very carefully. So in the speed time graph, to find distance traveled, the method is actually to find the area under the speed time graph. So the area under the speed time graph in this case is actually this area. So what is this area? This is actually a right angle triangle. So to find distance traveled, I need to find the area under this right angle triangle. So the formula to find right angle triangle is actually distance is actually equal to half base. So my base is actually 10 times my height. So my height, if I take note, my height is actually 40. Okay, 40. So in this case, I take 400 divided by 2. The answer is actually 200 meters. So this is a formula to find a right angle triangle. Here is 40 and here is 10. So 40 times 10 times half base times height, I get 200. So my answer will be B. Okay, so this is for page 2 of the question paper, which is from question 1 to 4. Okay, we'll start here first.